Welcome back to Musgrave Hill Bowling Club and Australia's Gold Coast for the second session of the second Trans-Tasman test between the Australian Jackaroos and the New Zealand Blackjacks. After featuring women's fours this morning, it is now time to show a men's pairs match. Shannon McElroy and Gary Lawson of the Blackjacks up against Corey Wedlock and Aaron Wilson of Australia. As we are all set and ready to go, just waiting for the starters' orders to get us underway in this men's pairs match. Also have men's triples, women's pairs and women's triples. And if you are just joining us for the first time today, I can let you know that Australia won 3 of the 4 matches in the first session of this second Trans-Tasman test, winning the singles for women 21-19. That was Kelsey Cottrell over Joe Edwards, winning the women's fours 25-10. Also winning the men's fours 19-8. Shannon McElroy getting the one match for New Zealand, a 21-17 win over Aaron Wilson in the men's singles. So what that does mean is that because of the big shot differential in particular, the women most likely will have to win all 4 of the remaining matches today to win the second test and to keep the Trans-Tasman alive going into Broadbeach tomorrow. Well, for the men, if they can win 3 of these last 4 games, they will win the Trans-Tasman Test Series because they won the first test at Club Helensvale yesterday, and they'll win the Trans-Tasman Trophy for the first time since 2009. And this match right in front of us could play a major role as we're all set to get underway. Corey Wedlock to start. I'm Brenton Vanessa Roy, and with me in commentary is Kevin Hicklin. Welcome back, Kevin. And the weather is continuing to stay away. We're very much looking forward to this contest. You've got the Burnside Pairs winners from Australia, and then McElroy and Lawson, the Asia Pacific champs.
Certainly a big game this, not only for the feature of this match, which is a real feature match for the overall Trans-Tasman result. This round is a big round for New Zealand men. New Zealand triples, of course, and the pairs, because New Zealand's sitting in that strong position after their good win yesterday and then sharing the spoils this morning, 1 each, with Shannon McElroy winning and New Zealand forwards going down. And the women, of course, this morning had a big struggle in both disciplines, and they'll be looking this afternoon in this second round, both the pairs and triples. Joe Edwards skipping the pairs and Caitlin Inch the triples. That we see a resurgence of that New Zealand women's side because, as you rightly say, due to the differential, they have to win virtually all 4 games. And my view, as I said yesterday, these 2 combinations out here, I think there is 3 of the top world pairs combinations led by Alex Marshall and Paul Foster, the Scottish combination. And these 2 here, Lawson and McElroy, and Wedlock and Wilson, I think are the other 2 big names in the international pairs who I'm sure we're going to see in action as well in the World Bowls. And we're looking forward to bringing you this particular fixture because I think we're going to see greens run at a good pace. So I think we're going to see overall good heads, good game, and the surface is very good, and we've got 4 top-class players out in front of us as we they play the first end of 18 in this very important pairs match in the second Trans-Tasman test here on the Gold Coast.
So after the matches were split for the men this morning, 1 apiece. Australia, though, with the advantage on differential. They won the fours by 11 shots. McElroy won the singles by 4, so Australia with a +7 differential. So that is obviously the tiebreaker. If it does finish all square at the end of the day, it's how the Australian women won the first test at Club Helensvale, and in fact the second and third tests of the last Trans-Tasman in November last year. Aaron Wilson quickly on the mat and quickly to work with a touch-up, applauded by Corey Wedlock.
And I'm sure we're going to see Lawson straight away will endeavour to reach down on his forehand through the Shannon McElroy bowl with weight, trying to get to that touch of bowl. Oh, Wilson's, and he's close to get the split on the bowls, got them perfectly. That split that we were talking about, Brendan, and certainly worked in New Zealand's favour. Well played by Gary Lawson, the New Zealand skip, And of course Aaron Wilson straight into his work, the Australian skip, one of the quickest players around, but he's going to go through, sail past, just past, finish on the centre line. But a very good first bowl from Gary Lawson to start this first end in the men's pairs. Lawson now on his backhand, trying to add to the count. He's following this bowl. It's on a good arc, this bowl of Lawson's. It breaks down towards the head, and that's going to be close as well to counting. Good start by the New Zealand skip.
Yeah, that may be shot, in fact. Obviously, camera angle is always deceiving, but it's almost jack level as Wilson, as we say, doesn't muck around. And look at this. His first bowl was brilliant. His third bowl is not too far away as well, and is going to force Gary Lawson to come up with something special again. His first bowl, Lawson came up with that split, got rid of the 2 Australian bowls near the jack. This time, there's one pesky bowl there of Wilson. What can he come up with?
Lawson will try and reach the bowl on his backhand, following the Aaron Wilson bowl, and he's playing down with weight to try and get to the shot bowl and move it cleanly. He's not going to come back far enough. Is he going to? What a bowl from Lawson.
And now what is the count? It could be 3 for New Zealand, in fact. So from 1 down, I think it has finished 3 for New Zealand. So expertly done by Gary Lawson, and already we're just seeing in one end some of the absolute high quality examples of what this match is going to be. If this is what we're in for 18 ends, it's going to be stunning. As it is confirmed, 3-0 New Zealand after the first of 18 ends, the combination of McIlroy and Lawson.
And it's going to be quick fire stuff as well, Brendan. There won't be any mucking around. But I thought the Gary Lawson bowl looked to be just a fraction touch on the wide side halfway down, but he had that perfect line on both his first bowl and his third bowl. Drew a shot with his second bowl as well. So a real good start by Gary Lawson on this, the first end, which resulted in New Zealand scoring 3 shots. As we watched that first bowl of Shannon McIlroy's come right back to the centre line, but will be short.
Well, it's not like the Australians played poorly either.
No, absolutely.
Aaron Wilson played 2 great bowls. Corey Wedlock got the better of Shannon McIlroy from his 3 bowls, and they go, we dropped 3. How did that happen?
That wasn't on the menu. As we watched Corey Wedlock just go by with his first, and Shannon McIlroy with a very distinctive, I call them the Stoke bowls, the blue and white the cross bowls of McIlroy's. And he's had a good start to this overall with the singles, of course, winning 2 from 2. As we watch his second bowl come right back to the centre line. That'll be shot, sits right onto the centre line, just in behind the jack. And Corey Wedlock will quickly follow the Shannon McIlroy bowl up to the head. It's on a good line as well. Aaron Wilson likes this bowl as it's breaking down towards the head. And that'll be shot, I would say. And we'll certainly see, no doubt, Brendan, we'll see that the shots holding, we'll see them change quite a bit, no doubt, during this game.
Oh, certainly will.
Look at this right now, you can see it right
of it.
And Shannon McIlroy, a touch-up, moves the jack back, and 2 New Zealand bowls sitting, 1 Australian bowl sitting in that little triangle nest there. But we've already seen on this head, we've seen that the shots change about 3 times already. So,
we're in store for a classic, I think. If the start's anything to go by, the first 1.5 ends have been of the absolute highest calibre. Skip's yet to play in the second end, but they had a good ding-dong battle in the first. Every question, though, that Aaron Wilson posed, the answer came from Gary Lawson.
So we're going to see Lawson, you'll see him play down. He'll play down on his backhand and try and get to one of the 2 Shannon McIlroy bowls. That's what he's playing, yeah, and turn the bowl into the head and try and turn that into on top of the jack. So here's Lawson now on his backhand. On its way is the Lawson bowl. Shannon McIlroy taking interest in this. Is it breaking down towards the head now? And just going to go past with some a metre of weight, and as long as it stays up on the green, I won't mind that, the New Zealanders. So Aaron Wilson, he'll play on his forehand. He'll try and draw in between the two Shannon McElroy bowls. And there's a pretty good attempt from the Australian skip. Have a look at this. Is it not quite going to get there, but certainly on a line to get straight to the jack. And again, on the backhand, we'll see Lawson trying to get that rest into the Shannon McElroy bowl. Just trying to slow it down as McElroy, as it's breaking down towards the head now. And just, it was half a bowl or less outside the target that he was looking for. So again, we'll see Aaron Wilson will come down on that forehand side, trying to get into amongst the two Shannon McElroy bowls, or run into his own, which he has done. Moves the bowl back slightly, makes two of it. Turned the Australian bowl over. And
got a bit of good fortune there, didn't he? But that's what happens when you play with that weight. Good things can happen when you're in the area.
Well, now that lands bringing the same shot option now for Gary Lawson to follow that Aaron Wilson line with the Gary Lawson bowl sitting down in behind there as the backest bowl. Lawson
there's another bowl beyond that, isn't there, as well?
The first Gary Lawson bowl, of course, is back there as well. So Gary Lawson can play down there on that forehand with.
There we see.
Reaching weight, good strong reaching weight. You can certainly play down there to get to the two Australian bowls. And you'll see the other New Zealand bowl sitting right down towards the ditch, sitting right at the back end of the rink. So we'll watch this Lawson bowl now. It's coming down towards the head. Is it going to get to that? And got the jack, got it, micked it round the corner.
As it stayed in place, it has. And now Aaron Wilson has to try and draw to there.
Well, the likelihood is that Wilson has got plenty of room. He's got a good enough player with that. We know that, to draw the shot. But of course, it's only one. It was two down before Gary Lawson played that bowl. Thing I've liked so far, only two ends. But we're seeing Gary Lawson change the head around with good weighted shots already in the first two ends as we watch this bowl of Aaron Wilson's. Now coming down towards that. Well, how quick is that going to be, though? It's
too
gone,
quick. So, New Zealand, you'd think with two here, the two Lawson bowls, they potentially measure for more. I think certainly two. So, we'll wait confirmation when we see the scoreboard. I believe it was two there. Now a bit of a conversation between the two. Mid-green to work out what length they want. But New Zealand scoring on both the first and second ends. After scoring at 3 on the first, they score a 2 indeed on the second. 5-0 they lead after 2 of the 18 ends in this men's pairs match. Chance to bring you up to date with some of the other matches, or endeavour to do so. Again, having to manoeuvre around a few bodies. And the women's pairs, pleased to report a good start for New Zealand after a tough day yesterday in the discipline. 1-0 they lead after the first end of 18. In fact, they've just completed a second end, so it's now 1-1 after 2 ends. The first end has just been completed in the women's triples, and I'll endeavour to check the scoreboard of the men's triples shortly.
So we've seen, Brendan, as we discussed earlier on, Gary Lawson, in fact, has turned the head around on both of the two ends played so far and turned them strongly in New Zealand's favour with a 3 and a 2 as we watch Corey Wedlock draw right down to the jack. And we'll see McElroy now. He'll come down on his forehand, trying to reach to the... he's playing it on his backhand, trying to reach to the Corey Wedlock bowl, which sits just low of the jack. Gary Lawson likes this bowl of McElroy's. It's now breaking down towards the head as it just fell short of the line. Wedlock again with his second. Will stay on that backhand side. Australia holding the shot. And you just sense that confidence within that Lawson-McElroy side. And you need to have confidence when you're playing against these two Australian players for sure. So here now is Shannon McElroy with his third bowl on this, the third end. Again, this is breaking down towards this is closer, this bowl to the Wedlock bowl. In fact, gets the front of the bowl, turns it over. Will still be 1 to Australia. Corey Wedlock will now change his hand. Go to his forehand very quickly, virtually on the mat, and off it goes. Just going to go by on that backhand side.
It won't be far away, that McElroy bowl. It might be a bit tighter than you think there, Kevin.
Lawson having another look at it, and he's going to stay on playing on that backhand reach to turn the Shannon McElroy bowl over.
Yeah, because obviously if you get that onto the Australian bowl, you can possibly make it 2 for, maybe even 3 for New Zealand as well. Men's triple. New Zealand won the opening end, picked up a shot, so 1-0. They lead.
So Lawson, of course, winner of the Peers gold medal in 2008 with Russell Meyer. And Gary Lawson, second bowl, definitely on a different line to the Aaron Wilson bowl as it now breaks down towards the head. And he's going to sit on the bowl. That's a good bowl from Lawson. Makes 2 of it. And the good thing is, you've got a bowl on either side of the head counting. As we watch now, Aaron Wilson is going to fall away under the head. In fact, that bowl will more likely go close to dead on the draw. So a good start by the New Zealand combination, Brenton. Gary Lawson
Certainly is.
He's just sort of brimming with confidence, isn't he? He's coming out firing as Gary Lawson.
These two matches were split yesterday. The Shannon McElroy, Gary Lawson combination winning the first contest, 18-15, very close fought match, but then Wedlock and Wilson bouncing back to win the second, 22-12, and what was the effect? A dead rubber. New Zealand had already won the first test, but still an impressive bounce back performance from Wedlock, and Wilson has again on the money. Here is Lawson, and that now makes it 3. But if they're assuming that bowl is just in play, the wide Wilson bowl, just 3 rather than 4.
This is a very difficult position to draw to as well, Brendan, because the jack's been moved so far off the centre line, and to get that line right down it is telling. It's not easy, I can assure you of that.
And driving on that line as well, very difficult. If that's the potential option there, to try and drive that jack into the ditch. So looks like it is the option. And that always managed to kill it. And that will be respotted here on the tee, on the 2 metre mark. And brilliant bolt from Wilson. Well, we say how well Lawson's been playing, but Wilson's been just behind him, even though they've managed to pick up 5 shots on the first 2 ends. So that's 1 to Australia, 5-1 now after 3 of the 18 ends. And just like that, 3 ends have gone by.
Well, it just shows, Brendan, the confidence that Aaron Wilson plays with. Now, here's an interesting move by the Australians. We haven't seen this before. The mat's been...
Well, they'll bring it up, but where the jack will end up at the 2 metre mark. So they have brought the mat up a few times, but the placing of the jack is really the point here. And
it'll be at the 2 metre mark. And, that shot that Aaron Wilson played, I can guarantee that most players would have endeavoured to try and draw to save to cut the number down from 3. Aaron Wilson backed himself, knew he had the spot covered, and ran the jack and scored that single. So a 1 to Australia, 5-1 to New Zealand after 3 of 18 ends. As we see the first bowl of Corey Wedlock's just draw jack level and sits level and just about 18 inches. And McElroy, Shannon McElroy, the Nelson, the painter from Nelson, will follow down the Corey Wedlock bowls. On a good line is the Shannon McElroy bowl. Just going to pull up short of the jack, but certainly running on a very good line towards the jack. And here's the second Corey Wedlock bowl.
Doesn't like it. His body language indicating it's going to be narrow, but it's going to work out all right as that comes off that McElroy bowl, turns it out, and now will be no doubt the shot bowl. and apologise for some of the water on the lens, but a moisture in the air here now at Musgrave Hill. I don't think it's anything that's going to curtail play or anything like that.
So we watch this bowler, Shannon McElroy's trying to get to his own into the shot and finishes jack level and won't be far away. So 2 good bowls from the New Zealander, and Corey Wedlock, of course, that third bowl is already halfway up by the time virtually Shannon McElroy's turned his back, and a run short and underneath the head. Well, this third Wedlock bowl, and Gary Lawson having a look at. And here's Shannon McElroy asking how far short is the bowl of Corey Wedlock's. So change of hand here from Shannon McElroy, and there are just a few spots of rain going by at present, and as Brenton said, I don't think it will come to anything as we watch this bowl of Shannon McElroy's now. And just coming down to sit in behind the jack. Look at this bowl from McElroy. Falls over, makes a toucher of it. Another very good bowl from the world champion, defending world champion singles player.
Yeah, one thing is though, is that it hasn't moved the jack into a place where Aaron Wilson can see it.
Well, Aaron Wilson always, his view I think is, when he can see a jack, it's like a football to him. It's not a little white thing. It's the way he plays the game. Aaron Wilson, as he watched him play his first bowl going by, where he was trying to get to the jack or to turn over the Corey Wedlock bowl. Now, good chance.
I think he was also maybe just trying to sit on the McElroy bowl and knock that out.
I'm sure you'll see Gary Lawson. He'll play the backhand, trying to get down to the Shannon McElroy 2 other bowls, turn them into the head or get past. If he gets past, he'll be quite happy. That'll give him that back bowl, covering that Australian bowl, which sits in behind by a metre behind the jack. And that's what Gary Lawson is doing, playing his backhand. And it's on its way on that wider line, which is where he wanted to be.
Too wide though. Needs it to sit down, and not the worst place though, because Australia did have control of the back if Aaron Wilson does look to play with weight. Just try and repeat his previous shot, but execute a bit better, get the line right. Either turn in the Wedlock bowl or sit on the McElroy bowl. He manages to get out just a feather on the Wedlock bowl and then nestles alongside the 2 McElroy bowls to the right of the head.
Now, just asking, Brenton, the New Zealand women's peers, Australia changed their combination around. I see Kelsey Cottrell, am I right, playing the women's peers with on the mat with Joe Edwards.
Oh, you're dead right, actually, aren't you? Well, that's interesting because the women's pair have been very dominant for Australia, but they have changed their combination around. So, yes, it's Kelsey Cottrell playing with Lindsay Clark. So, Van Ash is back in the triple, as she was at the start of the last Trans-Tasman. So that's an interesting move by the Aussies. But they're obviously, I think, more done trying to strengthen the triple rather than hurt the pair.
And perhaps the thinking as well that, you know, Kelsey Cottrell sort of got the wood on Joe Edwards a bit here, like we said in the singles, so let's try that. And
yeah, but the other combination had the wood on them, didn't it?
It was going pretty good, wasn't it?
So I don't think that's the reason. I think it's more to try and strengthen the triple. Van Ash is obviously playing very well at the moment, so having her there, and it actually looks like Van Ash is skipping the triple. So I think that's the reason they've moved Van Ash to skip the triple, but Scott's gone to number 2.
Because they did that as well, didn't they? In the last Test series, they changed that around where Rebecca Van Ash went to skip, and she has been in outstanding form, hasn't she? Been playing very, very well, and certainly was the real glue along with Lindsay Clark in that fours match this morning. As we watch now, Aaron Wilson trying to get down to the New Zealand shot bowl, just going to feather off. In fact, may have made shot of it, turned the bowl over. Gary Lawson and Shannon McElroy looking. He was slightly off target, but got a touch on the bowl. And
both Lawson and McElroy looking at the head from all angles as they try and work out what the bowl is to play here. Yeah, just give the shot. Or do you try and claim it back? It certainly looks like it is Australia, a combination of Wedlock and Wilson who are holding here.
So we'll see. Gary Lawson, with the weight that he plays, will give us some indication. That shot, as Brendan said, from our camera angle, it certainly favours the Australian bowl, one would think, as shot. So here's Lawson looking to me to be on that searching line, trying to get down. He's close to getting sent to this bowl, the Australian bowl. Desperately unlucky. Got the bowl.
There's one more for Australia. It wasn't far away, but not quite close enough for Gary Lawson, as he wasn't content with just giving away the one. Tried to grab it back for New Zealand. So 5-2 it is now after 4 of the 18 ends in this men's pairs matchup. This is the second session of 3 in the second test here. Musgrave Hill Bowling Club on Australia's Gold Coast. We have men's triples, women's pairs and women's triples in action as well. In the women's triples, Australia leading 3-0. In the pairs, New Zealand's leading 5-1 after 3. Both of those women's matches after 3 ends. And in the men's triples, New Zealand's 6-1. They're leading after 4 of the 18 ends. So far, so good for New Zealand, leading 3 of the 4 contests after Australia won 3 of the 4 this morning.
Well, let's hope that we can hold that scoreboard throughout.
Very early days though, isn't it?
Certainly is, and we saw this morning, remember, we saw the New Zealand women's four-side, and they were leading, remember, by 9-3. So, a good opening bowl here by Corey Wedlock, but an equally good response here from Shannon McElroy. Sits, in fact, virtually on top of the Wedlock bowl. And Corey Wedlock again, so quickly these guys play onto his backhand. And, certainly we're going to see the heads changing around as New Zealand lead 5-2 after 4 of the 18 ends in round 2 of the second test in this Trans-Tasman event at Musgrave Hill. Musgrave Hill here on the Gold Coast, where the weather gods have been kind to us to date, because both days, of course, quite significant rain had been forecasted, but to date hasn't arrived. So we hopefully we get through today again uninterrupted. So here's another good bowl from Wedlock, sits right in behind the jack. Not sure if it's made 2 of it, close to it. Yeah, it is 2. Gary Lawson, I just hear that in the microphone. That's 2 to the 2 Wedlock bowls are the counting bowls. So Shannon McElroy will play down on his backhand, trying to get to the shot bowl or make some sort of contact. Looks to be on a good line. How far is just going to run towards that shot bowl? Just turned everything over and just sort of nestled in behind the 2 Australian bowls.
Again, a good effort, but not quite enough weight to really shoot the jack out of the head as it is there. And if you had moved the jack further back, then that would have been a better result. But still, very fine effort from McElroy, and option still for Lawson.
Oh, absolutely. Another yard of weight would have given a different result. But the good thing is, though, Brendan, that they're in the target area. And we can see 6 bowls there now. And if you look at the 6 bowls, they're all so closely aligned to the jack that it just makes itself for a very good heads after end by end, I'm sure. And again, Lawson is the indication. He'll play with that extra, more than likely ditch weight, try and play down to those front 2 bowls of Shannon McElroy's, get some contact onto the Australian bowls with the green running today. It's just around about the 15-second mark. We're looking at this Musgrave Hill green. Of course, the last 2 international series, this green hasn't been used, so this is the first time that we've brought you action from this particular green here up on the hill.
Green number 3, isn't it? So not greens number 1 and 2 not being used. I believe they're probably been prepared for what's to come with the World Championships.
Great attempt here from Gary Lawson. Got the back of one of those bowls, moved the jack across, still maybe one to Australia, but what a fantastic effort there from Gary Lawson. There's Aaron Wilson now playing down on with his forehand, trying to get to the New Zealand bowl, or the jack just going to go by, all but touched it. Yes, and one to New Zealand is the call from Shannon McElroy. Great to have that mic out there, Brenton. Certainly gives us some on the mark commentary as well.
Yeah, it certainly does. Knowing from Bowls 3-5 commentary as well, Shannon McElroy and Gary Lawson, two of the better communicators on the green, always very vocal, barking out orders to their teammates. So they're certainly two of the best, and it's handy. Ben and Robbie setting up that microphone nice and close to this rink, just to the left of pitch of the microphone, so we'll be able to pick up, especially down this end, a bit of the communication between the pair.
That's a very good bowl from Gary Lawson, then gone to the back, because you can see clearly there on the screen there's 4 Australian bowls in the catching pen, where Aaron Wilson will certainly be looking to get that jack around the corner to where those bowls are. Corey Wedlock to like this bowl now as this breaks down towards the jack, and he gets that bowl, turns the bowl out clean. That's 1, 2, 3. I would say, looking from here, Brendan, that would be 3 shots to Australia.
Yeah, now Lawson pretty much has to emulate that bowl, doesn't he?
Same shot here from Gary Lawson, trying to get to, well, it's just the slightly jack high bowl, which is the shot, or the one behind it. Or, of course, movement of the jack is favourable to New Zealand, because the New Zealand bowler, Gary Lawson's down past the 2 metre mark. So Lawson will certainly be hunting for the jack.
Yeah, a few options open to him. Taking his time on the mat, especially in comparison to his counterparts.
Close.
Knocks away 1. Doesn't get the desired result, so 2 for Australia. So after New Zealand jumped out to a 5-0 lead, now 5-4 after 5 of the 18 ends. This men's pairs match up here on day 2 of the Trans-Tasman. The second test from Musgrave Hill in the second session. The men's matches split this morning in the 4s and the singles. Australia having the advantage on shot differential. New Zealand, of course, winning the first men's test, Club Helensvale. So trying to wrap up the series if they can today and win back that trophy for the first time in a long time, in 11 years in fact. We have New Zealand men's triple currently up 6-2 after 5 ends of the 18 and that contest. The women's pair, so that change for Australia, not working so far. The women's pair for New Zealand up 8-3 after 5 ends of 18 there. And then the triple, it's Australia after 4 ends leading 3-1 in that match. So New Zealand up still in 3 of the 4.
So as we go into the 16, Corey Wedlock with his first bowl just fractionally short. Shannon McElroy draws jack level, sitting just alongside the jack by about 15 inches, and that'll be shot. So Corey Wedlock now playing his second bowl, trying to reach down to get past his own or get to the jack, or turn his bowl over, gets a feather, runs to the jack, and you're going to see a lot of that. And, you know, in the old days, people would call that a bit of luck, but it's not luck, because these guys play with such consistency in and around the head that they're always, they're always in the target areas, as is what Shannon McElroy now trying to get down to the jack. He's close here as McElroy, just a feather. He
just
went by the jack.
By. Yeah, it looked good, didn't it? Straight out of the hand. It looked like it was on a good track, and that was not far away, just getting a little touch on the jack and moving that out of its current position on the 2 metre mark. Again, Wedlock's not far away as well, pretty similar bowl. Not quite as close as McElroy's was, but finding a similar home.
He'll be happy where that bowl's gone to, Corey Wedlock, and I'm sure now we'll see Shannon McElroy yet again try and get down on that forehand line, trying to get to either the shot bowl or the jack. Gary Lawson's going to break just under the head, needs a bit of luck on the jack, just goes by. But the good thing is, Brenton, about what we've seen so far with the men both of these players is when they play those shots, their bowls are still effective insofar as in relation to the head is concerned. They're not sort of scattered around. They're still, although they play with a yard of weight, they're still effective bowls, especially that we know that the jack is going to move around with these players. So if you get those bowls over the head, of course, into the target area, it gives you a great chance. As we watch now, Aaron Wilson trying to get down to these bowls. He'll be happy with that as well, and over the head. And Lawson, Gary Lawson will try and get down to the Corey Wedlock bowl. Turn it through the head. And of course the touch on the jack now is not quite so beneficial to New Zealand with that bowl of Aaron Wilson's. So Gary Lawson desperately, I know, is so keen on him and McIlroy and themselves being the New Zealand Peers combination for the world bowls. That's the slot that he wants. Watch this bowl now. Lawson's going for the jack clean in the ditch. Oh, and he got what a great slide he got then. He got the jack clean, then it hit again on the way through, and he trailed the jack into the ditch, and we'll see quickly on the camera in a moment where the jack is in relation to where the Gary Lawson bowl finished in the ditch.
It's hard to see. We can't see where the Lawson bowl is, but we can only assume it's close to the marker here, and just down below it we can see this little white marker just to the left, and that's where the jack is placed.
It will certainly be in that vicinity because it definitely ran on a straight line with the jack back towards the ditch.
Bad effort here from McIlroy. Lawson, excuse me. It's not quite the weight. Looks on a pretty good track, but then it stopped.
So Aaron Wilson now, he'll try and get down as close as he can to the ditch, because as you say, not entirely sure where that Garrett is. A great attempt here from Aaron Wilson. They're just going to finish. Can we see it now? Any chance in the ditch?
No,
still can't see where that bowl is of Gary Lawson's, but it appeared to get pretty much a consistent trail with the jack. That would mean that they would finish up pretty close to one another in the ditch, but we'll soon see. Gary Lawson will play his last bowl.
He's just making his way back to the mat, Gary Lawson. To play his, we'll see it coming down the green towards the head shortly. The jack is in the ditch. White mark just to the right of the 12 marker there. For the rink number is where the jack is. Is it going to hold up? No, it doesn't. I think he maybe was playing with the weight to get rid of the Wilson bowl. I'm not sure, but it is still one for New Zealand because they had one in the ditch and it was closer than that effort from Aaron Wilson. So New Zealand get the mat and the jack back 6-4. They now lead after 6 of the 18 ends. So already a third of the way through this contest. Alongside after 6 ends in the men's triples as well, 6-3, New Zealand leading. After 5 ends of the women's triples, it's women's pairs, it's New Zealand leading 8-3, and in the women's triples, Australia leading 4-1 after 5 ends.
So certainly having the match that we anticipated, we'd see plenty of action in this men's pairs for sure. And New Zealand leading 6-4 after 6 of the 18 ends, and we've certainly seen the heads changing bowl by bowl with these 4 very, very accomplished players. For all the best going around for sure. And Shannon McIlroy holding the shot just slightly low of the jack. And the Corey Wedlock bowl coming short. Here's McIlroy now on his forehand. And that'll come well past the head. I won't mind that. It's in behind. But still, New Zealand definitely holding the shot. And Corey Wedlock Also coming to the forehand side as well, with the first bowler, Shannon McElroy's been shot just slightly lower the jack. There's a Wedlock bowl just going to run by, and it'll still be 1 to Shannon McElroy as we play the 7th end here of this men's pairs round 2 of the second test match between New Zealand and Australia. And Shannon McElroy is going to turn his own bowl and on over onto the jack. Very handy. Cuts that view off. Wedlock again. Coming down, following the Shannon McElroy bowl. Aaron Wilson likes this bowl as it breaks down towards the head and makes shot of it. Aaron Wilson quickly puts his hand up. That's the shot. Well played.
Yeah, well, a bit of a shake of the head from Corey Wedlock. Because he was like, where was that with the first couple? Wasn't happy with his first couple of bowls, but his third one was a great reply, especially after McElroy got a nice touch off one of his to promote his first bowl close to the jack, and just coming around that McElroy bowl to take the shot back for Australia.
Yeah, Gary Lawson, he'll try to reach that Corey Wedlock shot bowl. Lawson's bowl now breaking towards the head. Got a touch on it, moved the jack over slightly, and still be Australia, I'd say, holding the shot. We'll see Aaron Wilson changing his hand now, and he'll play in on his backhand. It's on its way. The Wilson bowl, and Corey Wedlock might indicating, is it on the wide side, going underneath the head. And playing with that weight just sort of indicates New Zealand hold the shot now.
Wouldn't have thought so.
I wouldn't have thought, but that was certainly played with reaching weight to...
it's just the way he plays.
You're right. Sorry, he does.
I suppose if he could have knocked away the New Zealand bowl, maybe he was trying to sit on that New Zealand bowl and maybe just on the outside of it, knock that away and make it 2. The McElroy bowl, which is close to the jack, it could be one of the possibilities.
So Gary Lawson, he'll try then to get a turn onto the McElroy bowl. He's playing down on that other hand. He's playing with weight to get to the jack. They're going beyond what we would call the conventional here, both of them.
Well, certainly New Zealand's down on the head.
Obviously so, with that shot that Gary Lawson just played. And I suppose his thoughts were if he does play the other hand and moves the jack out, there's another Australian bowl sitting out there. He doesn't want to do that. As we watch the Wilson bowl just go by, Gary Lawson, Shannon McElroy coming up to have a look at the head. Now, the important thing here for New Zealand, though, Brendan, is I want to attack this too viciously, because if the Shannon McElroy bowl was to disappear off the head, New Zealand are 3 down, and of course still another bowl for Aaron Wilson to play. So New Zealand need to be a wee bit careful here, just on the conservative side, which is not really in the makeup of either one of these 4 players. But we'll see. Lawson looks as though he's gone back to changing his hand. He's decided to play that shot that he played with his first bowl to try and turn the Shannon McElroy bowl into the head, and just going to go by and less risk, and no chance of the New Zealand bowl being dislodged, because you can be sure of this, that Aaron Wilson now will be endeavouring to try and get a touch on the jack. Any movement of the jack by about 6 inches is certainly advantageous to Australia. You can make 3, possibly 4 of this if he was to get the jack. And this is how these boys play, and that's exactly what he's going to do, as we predicted, and 3 to Australia.
Yeah, it should be 3. Not more than that by the looks of it. Wait to see be confirmed when the scoreboard is updated, but Australia will be taking the lead here in this men's pairs matchup. Yes, confirmed now after 7 of the 18 ends. Australia leading 7-6 over New Zealand, the Wedlock-Wilson combination over McElroy and Lawson of New Zealand, alongside the men's triples. New Zealand leading 7-3 at the same stage after 7 of the 18 ends. In the women's pairs, New Zealand leading 9-3 after 6 of the 18. And in the women's triples, it's Australia 5-1 up after 6 of the 18.
And as we saw that last end, Brenton, as we've spoken about the ability of Aaron Wilson, who can take the opportunity when that door's open to play those sort of just weighted shots. Didn't rush at the head, only just fractionally overweight, over the draw weight, and moved the jack back a couple of feet. And Shannon McElroy is going to draw a front touch ahead as McElroy, the New Zealand lead, with Australia leading by 7 shots to 6, 7-6 to Australia. A toucher by Shannon McElroy, and here's now Corey Wedlock. He'll follow that McElroy bowl down. He's equal to it as just touches the New Zealand bowl, turns it over onto the jack, moves it off the centre line. And Gary Lawson indicating to Shannon McElroy, just stay on that line, get past your own, or just sit past it. Pretty high quality we're seeing here this afternoon in this pairs match, and we hope back there in New Zealand you're enjoying watching 4 of the best players in the world, no doubt about that. That's 4 of the best, 4 of the legends here. Shannon McElroy still holding shot as the bowl of Wedlock's just went by, and now Shannon McElroy again now. It's on a good line. This bowler, Shannon McElroy, is going to pull back towards the centre line and sits at the back. The good thing is here for New Zealand that should there be the jack get killed, New Zealand at this point own the 2 metre mark, which is very important. 7-6 Australia after 7 of the 18 ends. And Aaron Wilson, we just saw in that last end with his last bowl, the ability that the Commonwealth Games singles champion that he's got in his case of tricks. He certainly can play weight control superbly. Just going to go under the head though with this bowl. And in fact, no, not quite. Had the chance of leaving it 2 for New Zealand, but there's. So we'll see now. Lawson will draw down, no doubt, to where that Australian bowl sits as second shot. Try and get 1 turn out of that bowl, can make 3 of it. New Zealand definitely holding the shot. And it's the hand that Gary Lawson's playing. I question the
Looks
line.
Narrow. Might take the jack.
Well, as long as he goes clean with it, and he has.
Worked out very well. I don't know if that was what he was trying to do. I think, like you, he was trying to land on the yellow Australian bowl just in front with McElroy's bowl, the shot. But what it has meant is it's the same kind of situation with New Zealand holding the one there. And I'd say maybe potentially that Lawson bowl, the orange bowl, the burnt orange bowl, is the second.
I'd say
over the yellow bowl, which is just below the graphic here, bottom of the screen.
I think Gary Lawson would have sort of breathed a pretty big sigh of relief then, Brendan, because that definitely wouldn't have been the shot that he was actually trying to play. He wanted to be on the wider side, not the narrower side. Fortunately for him, they ran into the jack and delivered the jack, or trailed the jack back to where you can see there the bowler Shannon McElroy, the drive now.
Oh, that's worked out. Worst case scenario there for Aaron Wilson. Thankfully for him, he's still got a bowl left, but he knocked away 2 Australian bowls.
Yeah, he was off target and got that bad result. And New Zealand now, see Gary Lawson, at least 2 for sure.
Maybe it's still only 2, so it could have been worse. Didn't get rid of this bowl, which is at the back still here. And I think that is probably 3rd shot.
Gary Lawson now, big opportunity to draw another. We know that Aaron Wilson will certainly, he'll still attack with his last bowl, that's for sure. So Lawson will want to try and get down towards the backhand count. So here's the Gary Lawson bowl now, running towards the head, going to get a touch on his own, move it past, and going to stay up. It looked as though it stayed up on the line, and Wilson having another look, and we're going to see, it could be 3 to New Zealand, we're not sure at this point. We'll see shortly. We'll wait till this Aaron Wilson bowl has been played. And here's Wilson now trying to get down to this Shannon McElroy bowl or the jack. He's close to it. Is the Australians got the touch on the bowl?
Oh, fine effort. Well, that means it certainly is just the one to New Zealand at this stage. Lawson still to play his last. And you think the play will be to try and get rid of that bowl if you can, but how do you get to it?
Well, the danger of playing that shot is it could ricochet across the side. There's an Australian bowl sitting over there towards the ditch, and Lawson may just be quite happy that that bowl shot certainly on Brendan, but if he was to feather off that or slide off that, there's that Australian bowl. So I'm sure we'll see Lawson. You know, he's playing for the bowl. He's playing for that Australian bowl. You must think there's a number worth going for. And
we can't see what actually was the result.
But it's not there anymore.
Oh, he got rid of it, so 1, 2. And we think that one's maybe just the 2.
Well, superb bowl by Gary Lawson.
Well, was it worth the risk for one shot, though, is the question.
Well, if it was 3 or 4, certainly, but if it was just for one extra shot, that certainly was a roulette wheel shot for sure. But these boys, it's the game they play.
That scoreboard yet to be updated, but I think we saw the 2 signalled, which would make it 8-7 to New Zealand after 8 of the 18 ends in the men's triples alongside. After 8 also, Australia down 3-8, 8-3 New Zealand leading. And the women's triples, after Selena Smith and Joe Edwards lost both of their matches yesterday, they're up 11-3 after 7 of the 18 ends there. And the scoreboard at the moment is obstructed in the women's triples match, but we'll give you an update of that as Shannon McElroy is currently updating the men's pairs scoreboard. And in fact, it was a 3. So 9-7 is now to Shannon McElroy and Gary Lawson over Corey Wedlock and Aaron Wilson.
So the shot that Gary Lawson played, in fact, did bring 2 further shots into count for New Zealand to give them that 3 on the 8th end. And Shannon McElroy holding the shot on the backhand side is McElroy playing his second bowl now on the shorter end. Breaks down towards the head, just got to get past his own, which he's going to do. That'll be the shot, just sits alongside the jack. Corey Wedlock will play the forehand, trying to get to that shot bowl or a touch on the jack. It's breaking its way into towards the head now. Good weight here from Wedlock, just going to go by. A good bowl though, could well be shot. We'll see now. Shannon McElroy playing again on his backhand. Trying to, no doubt, get to the Wedlock bowl as well. Just question that line of this bowl is now moving across the centre line. And it'll sit virtually jack level. 3 good bowls from McElroy. Wedlock now quickly into his work, playing down on that forehand side. And again, he's done that V down towards the jack area. And a sit on his own bowl. 2 lovely bowls there from Corey Wedlock. And of course, the way how that's situated, well, could well be the New Zealand bowl, the McElroy bowl in front. Brendan, could still be the shot.
Yeah, always difficult to tell from different angles, isn't it? But it's another tight head once more. Obviously, from that camera angle, the jack's obstructed. And then from the other one, you just can't quite tell. Perhaps favouring the McElroy bowl. I suppose the way Lawson and Wilson play may tell us the answer.
So here is Gary Lawson playing on his forehand, trying to get down to these Corey Wedlock bowls, trying to sit on. That to me indicates that it could well be the Australian front bowl of Corey Wedlock's. That, in fact, is the shot. And Gary Lawson trying to move it out of the head. Aaron Wilson now very quickly into his work. Looks to be just on that wide side, going past the Wedlock bowls. And I'm sure Gary Lawson will repeat again. Shot that he endeavoured to play with his first. He was only half a bowl wide of the target. And here is Lawson again now on his forehand. Certainly every chance he'll be part of that New Zealand side when it's announced for the World Bowls. Just going to go drop past and wait. Hasn't quite got enough to get to where he wants to be. And I think if I was a bookie, I'd be quite happy to say that I think New Zealand pairs combination for the World Bowls will be Gary Lawson and Shannon McElroy.
Yeah, I don't think there was any doubt about it anyway, to be honest, Kevin. I don't know if it was one of the teams under doubt.
Wilson, look at this. Yeah, the shot for Gary Lawson is to try and play, I'd say. He'll have a look, try and play that split. Both looking at it now, so that would lead one to think that there's two shots to.
So if you have just joined us, and there we go. Thank you, Robbie. So you can see where the jack is. So it's just behind that last bowl of Aaron Wilson that he just played. And then you've got obviously the two Australian bowls tucked in behind. And the top one of them will be second shot. So Australia holding a couple here.
Of course, Gary Lawson can't allow the jack to move out to the other side of the rink there, Brendan, because there's a green line, 1, 2, 3 bowls there. So just has to be careful of how he plays this, does Lawson. And here he is now playing on his forehand, trying to get that bowl to work back on the draw line. Shannon McElroy likes this, but just going to go by. But played with the right shot to play, no danger, and the jack coming out. But Aaron Wilson, certainly 2 shots to Australia, you would think, as we come down to the end of the 9th and halfway mark of this men's pairs competition game. The round 2 here of the Trans-Tasman. Aaron Wilson now playing his third and last bowl, and looks to be on the wider side.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that's going to change the situation here. So it should be couple to Australia. We're all tied up at the halfway stage, as Kevin mentioned, of this men's pairs matchup in the second session of the second Trans-Tasman test. As at the same stage, after 9 ends of the men's triples, New Zealand leading 8-5, so that's tightened up somewhat. After 8 ends of the women's pairs, New Zealand leading 11-5, and after 7 ends of the women's triples, it is Australia leading 7-1. So New Zealand up in 2, level in 1, and down in 1. After New Zealand lost 3 of the 4 in this morning's contest. Kelsey Cottrell, 21-9 winner rather over Joe Edwards in the women's singles. The Australian men's 4, 19-8 winners. The Australian women's 4, 25-10 winners. Shannon McElroy, the lone New Zealand winner in the men's singles, 21-17 over Aaron Wilson, who is locking horns with again. Although his direct opposite is Corey Wedlock. Wedlock, who played as 3 in the men's 4. So Australia making a few changes. Wedlock played as 2 in the men's 4 yesterday. We've seen the women's, Australian women, make a few changes. If you have only joined us in recent times, Kelsey Cottrell was playing as skip now in the women's pair. So Australia's broken up their successful women's pair of Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash. That's because Rebecca Van Ash has gone into skip the triple. And Natasha Scott moving into 2 in that triple.
Great attempt there from Shannon McElroy to make shot of it with his second bowl. As you watch the Corey Wedlock bowl, just going to turn his own bowl in for shot, that's for sure. And as we said right at the outset of this game, Brendan, we're going to be treated to some top draw, first class bowls, and we're certainly seeing that from these 4 players. The heads are very tight, Jack's getting moved around heads are changing on a regular basis, and both skips are playing a number of attacking shots, which are certainly backing their confidence. And going to see now Aaron Wilson, 9 all locked up, 9 gone, and 9 all's the score. And the indication from Corey Wedlock, he wants to try and get Aaron Wilson to get a couple of turns on that Shannon McElroy bowl, just sitting jack level, which is definitely second shot. Here's the Wilson bowl now on its way. Looks to be on the wider side. Is it just going to go by? Yes, it is, but that's certainly the shot that he was playing. And the good thing for them about that, Brendan, was although he missed the target, he automatically gave Australia a back bowl when New Zealand had 2 good bowls sitting at the back. The way how Aaron Wilson, of course, played that enabled Australia to get a back bowl. So any jack movement now is not all entirely in favour of New Zealand. So here's now Lawson, the New Zealand skip. He'll follow up the bowl of Wilson's, playing down to reach through the 2 bowls. And Shannon McElroy looking at this bowl as it breaks in towards the head, trying to get the double split onto that. Look at that bowl from Gary Lawson. Got the split onto the bowl, as we thought, and made shot, maybe 2, but certainly New Zealand holding. So Wilson now on his backhand, trying to emulate the Gary Lawson bowl. Corey Wedlock does the old wide arms as it sailed by, but always looked wide, did that particular bowl of Aaron Wilson's. Now Shannon McElroy, looking, New Zealand may have 2. Shannon McElroy saying, let's get down and behind here. There's some cover on that trail that Aaron Wilson will be endeavouring to play. Here's the Lawson bowl now breaking down towards the head. It's going to nestle in amongst the bowls. Not quite making where it wanted to be, but so Aaron Wilson, you might see him now just play with a wee bit more weight to get that shunt onto that front Australian bowl, or the jack. Certainly got a narrower line than he had with his second bowl.
Not narrow enough by the looks of it, though. Might just get a feather on that bowl and it slides through. So not the line he needed to get the jack or to get that touch on the Australian bowl. So New Zealand holding a couple here, and just the Gary Lawson bowl to be played after absolute frenetic start to this match. It has slowed down into a more sedate, normal pace. Players taking a bit more time over their shots, a bit more deliberation. First couple of ends were over in a flash. New Zealand were up to a 5-0 lead in a blink of an eye as Lawson try to add a third here for New Zealand. Looks like it's going to come under the line, and it's not going to have the weight, so New Zealand score again. We assume that was 2, but we'll wait confirmation as Shannon McElroy grabs the mat.
Gary Lawson just walked past me and said he could have made 5 of that, but
yeah, so it was 2, 11-9. New Zealand now leading after 10 of the 18 ends. 10-5 New Zealand up in the men's triples alongside after also 10 of the 18 ends. And the women's triples, New Zealand's just scored a couple of shots. So at the halfway stage, it's Australia 7, New Zealand 3. And at the halfway stage of the women's pairs, it's New Zealand 12, Australia 5. So New Zealand ahead in both men's matches and ahead of one of the 2 in the women's game.
Well, of course, Brendan, if New Zealand could hold on to these 2 men's matches, means then, of course, it's in a very strong position going into that last round this afternoon for the men in the second test, because New Zealand would be sitting on 3 wins.
Yeah, 1 win away
from
winning the Trans-Tasman, or perhaps 2 narrow defeats away. It will come down to shot differential if they do finish level on 3 wins apiece. At the moment, Australia do have that advantage, mostly courtesy of their 11-shot victory in the fours this morning in the first session of 3.
So here now is Corey Whitlock with Shannon McElroy holding shot. Whitlock just draws right on the centre line in front of the jack. And we'll see Shannon McElroy in New Zealand lead on his backhand, with New Zealand leading 11-9 as we play the 11th of 18 ends. Just going to go, got a touch on the jack, did Shannon McElroy, and will be 1 to Australia, but it certainly moved the jack out where it can be now seen, because before sitting right in front of the Whitlock bowl, couldn't actually be seen by the opposing side. So now, of course, they can see that. Gary Lawson now, every opportunity now, and I'm sure we'll see him play down through that V in front of the Australian bowls, with 2 Shannon McElroy bowls sitting just in behind the head. And Lawson will certainly be trying to reach down there to either sit on the Australian shot bowl or get that touch on the jack. So here is Gary Lawson now on the mat, on the forehand. That's what he's playing to do, trying to get to those bowls or the jack. Looks to be got to get the jack clean. Got the jack, killed it, or go to the 2 metre mark.
We assume.
Wouldn't.
And yes, it's been brought back to the 2 metre mark. So the head is completely changed. Assuming New Zealand have a bowl in the ditch, which was the trailing bowl, and there's actually a bowl out here to the right as well. So that's the Lawson bowl. So nothing in the ditch.
Certainly wouldn't have been the shot that Gary Lawson, the result, I mean, that Gary Lawson really wanted, because it's opened it up. No one's really got the shot, because there's plenty of room, and it's safe to say that New Zealand will be 1 down after this bowl of Aaron Wilson's, and that is the case as he draws virtually right onto the jack. Jack sitting on the 2 metre mark, in fact. So that's 1 to Australia. So Gary Lawson now will draw down, no doubt, on his backhand, trying to get right to the 2 metre mark to make shot of it. And that's what Lawson's doing now. So Australia holding 1. The question, how's that line of Lawson's?
Looks narrow. Is it going to come around? Or it just does come around. Or come inside it, rather, the McElroy bowl. And didn't have the weight or the line. Ends up relatively short of the 2 metre marks. Only got 1 left as well, and you expect Aaron Wilson with his second bowl to add another to the count.
It's interesting, Aaron Wilson too changed his hand and ran into the Shannon McElroy bowl. It's interesting because he also was, although he didn't have the weight, was also on that narrower line. So the line for Gary Lawson now is around that very front Australian bowl, which is quite a distance up the green. And that's where the track that Gary Lawson's aiming for. And if he's around this bowl with weight, he gives himself every chance of drawing the shot. As it hasn't
needs it to hurry.
Hasn't
it
got the weight. It was the track, no doubt about that. Just lacked that metre of weight. So it'll be Australia that will score definitely 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, and they'll be disappointed they're not scoring more than that, given that Lawson with his 2 hasn't really got anywhere near the jack, and Wilson, who ran into that McElroy bowl with his second, which probably would have denied him a second in there. Now he'll try and score with his final bowl. This puts a lot wider, and it's not going to hold up, and that's not going to count either. So it's just going to be the 1 to Australia. So after 11 now of the 18 ends, it's at 11-10. Shannon McElroy and Gary Lawson over Corey Whitlock and Aaron Wilson.
And as you said, Brendan, you know, these 4 players, certainly 2 of the best pairs combinations in the world, and you'd expect to see the tight game which we've got in front of us. That's just the way these guys play, and the ability that these guys have got, the 4 of them. And you know, between them, there's a lot of titles between, not so much to Corey Whitlock at this point in time, but they'll come for him for sure. But if we take Aaron Wilson, Gary Lawson, Shannon McElroy, there's a pretty vast array of achievements amongst those 3 players for sure.
Well, Wedlock already has the Burnside Peers title, doesn't he? Just
certainly
a couple of weeks ago down in
does.
Christchurch with Aaron Wilson. But you're right. Internationally, he's gonna win a lot more. Still a very young player, one of the youngest players in the Australian squad, just 23 years of age.
There's a lot of years of international play for Corey Wedlock, and I must compliment the Australian side. I happened to be down there for the Burnside Peers, and Gary Willis, the Australian manager, was with them, and they had 8 players over there at Burnside, and they were fantastic. Mixed in with all the crowd there at Burnside, and were wonderful amongst. In fact, whilst I was doing the commentary of the 17th in a very tight game against Rowan and Brian Weir, because they played 2x2x2, in between that on the 17th in, Aaron Wilson jumped off the green and sat down on the microphone and spent 2 or 3 minutes talking with me before we went out and played his 2 bowls. So yeah, they were great at Burnside, as they have been for the 23 years now that the Australians have been coming to the Burnside Peers for the Stu Butter Memorial Peers. Another good bowl coming in here from Corey Wedlock, and Australia holding 1 definitely. The bowl sitting right on the centre line. Shannon McElroy now on his backhand, the current world singles champion. Watching this bowler, McElroy's is going to come back far enough to get into the centre line, turn the bowl over. No, it won't. 11-10 New Zealand lead, 11-10 after 11 of the 18 ends.
You can hear over the audio, umpire being called in one of the matches, I believe in the women's triples match, where Australia is 7-4 up after 10 of the 18 ends. And the women's peers, New Zealand, they were up 13-5, also after 10 of the 18 ends. It's tightened up in the men's triples. It's now New Zealand 10, Australia 8 after 11 of the 18 ends, and that's on the rink alongside this one. You can see Ali Forsyth coming into shot on the left-hand side of the screen there, making his way back to the mat.
So Australia holding the shot here as the skips change over on the, as we play in 12 of 18. And here's now Gary Lawson trying to reach down to sit on these Australian counting bowls. Here's the Lawson bowl now breaking down towards the head. Is it going to sit inside for shot? Fallen for shot. But Shannon McElroy applauds it. But didn't quite get right back to the centre line where it needed to be to count. So we watch this bowl, Aaron Wilson's. And he's going to sit again under those Australian bowls. That's 3. There we can see might actually be 2 there. In fact, Brennan to Australia, but Lawson will try and get down to those counting bowls, beat his own bowl, his first bowl, and he'd just about have shot. So here is the second Gary Lawson bowl on N12. Not much reaction I can see in the New Zealand camp, except to say that Lawson, I think, has just drawn the shot.
Well, certainly from that angle. As you said, there's an absolute wall of bowls just in behind the jack. And while that bowl's short from Lawson, and it doesn't look that short, but from other angle, it certainly will show more of that. There we go. But it's always hard to tell from this camera angle whether that is the shot or whether it's the Australian bowl right behind.
So here's Aaron Wilson trying to get that trail to the jack, and he does. And
trails it near the New Zealand bowl. So while Australia, I think, have the shot as indicated by Corey Wedlock, there are 3 New Zealand bowls now either side of that one bowl for Australia.
Well, that was a good result for New Zealand, because there was that bundle of Australian bowls sitting there, wasn't there? That complete nest where the jack could easily have just sort of nestled itself into, because the bowls are virtually all locked. There's 6 bowls there, I think, all virtually locked together on the head with the jack sitting in between. Now, Gary Lawson's looking at a shot option here, which is worth going for, to try and play down onto his bowl, squeeze.
8 bowls, in fact.
8 bowls sitting there with like a tea towel.
That's incredible, isn't it? It's pretty much a wall of bowls. There's pretty much no way you can get through for a couple of feet, 2.5 feet, unless you make contact with one of these bowls. And there it is, the jack nestled amongst them all.
So, because it's a difficult shot because the jack could still sort of move over to where those other Australian bowls are, and the front bowl, which we can't see here right now on camera, just cuts the line, the bowl over there on that far side. That negates possibly Gary Lawson playing that hand to get down to that, to reach into those bowls. But for sure, Lawson will be endeavouring to pull something out of the hat here to try and get shot. Callers, one down, one to Australia. Lawson now on the mat. He's going to play on the backhand. Can he try and squeeze that Australian bowl out of the head?
Yeah, the jack is currently sitting in front of this yellow bowl to the right of pitcher.
Oh, he's playing with a lot of weight. Shannon McElroy's looking at this bowl. Squeeze, jack bowl. And it'll be, I think, shot to New Zealand.
Yeah, well executed by Gary Lawson. You said how difficult it was, but you can see with the hop, skip and a jump there from Gary Lawson that it was a good one. So Corey Wedlock was probably almost ready to pick up the mat and the jack. Instead, it is Gary Lawson who keeps it in New Zealand hands. So another shot for New Zealand, 12-10 now after 12 of the 18 ends. 2/3 of the way we are now through this contest.
Well, we hope all you people sitting at home back in New Zealand watching this telecast, watching this cast being brought to you, you've certainly seen this coverage. You're seeing, as Brenton and I predicted before this game got underway, 4 of the best players in the world and certainly 2 of the best pairs combinations in the world, live and free action for everyone here to look at. And we've certainly been treated to a game of the highest class here between Gary Lawson skipping for New Zealand and Shannon McElroy in the Australian combination of their skip Aaron Wilson and Corey Wedlock, with New Zealand leading 12-10 at the end of 12 ends, and Shannon McElroy holding the shot just lower the jack as Corey Wedlock responds and just goes by, and it will be McElroy holding the shot.
And at the same stage of the men's triples on the rink alongside, it's New Zealand still leading 13-8 after 12 of the 18 ends, after 11 of the 18 in the women's pairs. It's New Zealand 13, Australia 6 in that matchup. And after 10 ends of the women's triples, it's Australia 7, New Zealand 4. So New Zealand are up in 3 of the 4, which is a good bounce back so far. Obviously, a third of these contests still remaining in the second session after Australia won 3 of the 4 in the first session. They won both the 4s and they also won the women's singles. Shannon McElroy the only victor for New Zealand this morning in the men's singles.
So Gary Lawson saying that Shannon McElroy, feel free to come down on your backhand. You can draw to the Corey Wedlock bowl or get the jack and around the corner, but definitely New Zealand holding the shot. There's going to be on the narrow side this bowl of Shannon McElroy's, and of course McElroy and Wilson, they'll go again this afternoon. They'll go head to head again in the singles in the 3rd round today, which at this stage Shannon McElroy holds a 2-love. As we watch this bowl of Corey Wedlock's just going to come short. New Zealand hold 1, so 3 games today, and Shannon McElroy and Aaron Wilson will play one another 3 games, 2 disciplines. Yeah,
and it'll be the same with Joe Edwards and Kelsey Cottrell,
yes,
unless there's a change there, because Kelsey Cottrell is now skipping the women's pair after beating Joe Edwards in the singles this morning, and that'll be the match we'll bring to you unless there's any changes to lineups for that 3rd and final session. Joe Edwards on her 50th birthday, of course the world's #1 ranked female bowler, 2-time Commonwealth Games singles champion, against Kelsey Cottrell, who at the age of 29 is an absolute veteran of the game. Been in the Australian side since a teenager.
So here is now Gary Lawson, certainly on the wide side, and I can hear in the ground Mike Kernan giving instructions to Ellie Forsyth. And I think, although the New Zealand fours lost this morning, Mike Kernahan, I think a welcome addition back into the New Zealand squad. Brings a lot of attributes, a lot of experience as we watch now. Aaron Wilson gets the jack, turns it round the corner for one. And we'll see, I'm sure. Yeah, Shannon McElroy, you're here to turn to Gary Lawson. Give yourself a chance on that swing, weighted shot down on that forehand to get to the jack or the shot bowl. So here is now Lawson trying to get down to this bowl. Looks as though to be a fraction on the wide side, and it gets a feather onto the bowl. Got the feather. Still one to Australia, but New Zealand now got the backest bowl. So
yeah, and that bowl ended up pretty close, rather fortuitously, really. It was more than a feather, I think, on the front bowl. Ran into it, but then managed to glide its way towards the head. And also given the back bowl, which Aaron Wilson has just nestled alongside with his second.
There's an interesting opportunity here for New Zealand. You know, Gary Lawson, I'm sure he'll play that same weight, and you know he can get onto the bowl. And of course, Australia have got third shot as well. So Lawson will be trying to reach to that shot bowl or the jack on the forehand. So we'll see in a moment the Lawson bowl. You can see the jack there. That's where Gary Lawson will be endeavouring to get down to. It's on its way. Looks to be on the wide side. And it is. So we come to the end of the 13th of 18 ends. There's Australia holding one and New Zealand leading 12-10. 12-10 to Gary Lawson and Shannon McElroy. Soon to become at least 12-11.
Yeah,
or
potentially 12 all.
Or does he turn the bowl right out of the head and make three of it? You wouldn't know what this guy's going to do.
He'll play the aggressive and positive way, that's for sure.
That's what he's done. Made three of it.
Wonderfully executed there by Aaron Wilson, and not too happy with himself as Gary Lawson, as he was unable to execute with his three bowls. And so Australia take the lead now in the men's pairs, 13-12 after 13 of the 18 ends. Then the triples alongside. That's tightened up at the same stage after 13 ends. It's New Zealand 13, Australia 10. The 12 ends of the women's pairs. New Zealand, a combination of Selena Smith and Joe Edwards, still up over Lindsay Clark and Kelsey Cottrell, 13-7. And after 11 ends in the women's triples, it's Australia 10, New Zealand 4. So after 3 wins from 3 yesterday for Caitlin Inch, it looks like it may be back-to-back defeats. The way it's going at the moment, we'll need a bit of a fight back. Still a chance, but not the way it was going for her yesterday.
No, certainly not. And I think as we spoke about this morning, Brenton, it all comes about from how your front delivers, and they certainly didn't deliver consistently in that fours game this morning. Ian's 13-12, Australia lead in this pairs. Thrill up 13-12 to Australia after 13 of 18 ends. And Shannon McElroy holding the shot as Corey Wedlock bowl just drifts by. Now, is that, am I right? Is that blue sky we can see on the monitor there?
Well, I don't know if that's blue sky.
Just looking
I think it's just a filter that Ben's put over the camera to make it look a lot better than it actually is. Yeah.
Another good bowl by
Still very much grey skies overhead. Nothing like we had in practice on Monday. And I think much the same as forecast for Waitangi Day tomorrow for the third and final test at Broadbeach.
Here's the weighted shot from Corey Wedlock, but again, you've got 5 bowls sitting there, virtually covered by mum's old tea towel. That's how well these guys are playing. They're certainly end after end. They're just piling their bowls around the jack. As here now comes the third bowl of Shannon McElroy's on this, the 14th end, gets a touch, moves his bowl back. Well, no wonder Australia, but New Zealand now got the back bowl. And it's interesting, Brendan, this pairs game, you don't worry about who's got the shot when the skips change over, because you know it's not going to, the chances of it staying like that is just pretty remote, isn't it?
How many ends have we had where the jack hasn't moved? Have we had one?
I wouldn't think so, no.
It's been incredible, isn't it? If Wedlock or McElroy aren't moving it, then you can be assured that Wilson or Lawson will.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the way they play the game, and that's why they're so good, as we watch Wilson now trying to get to the jack again, just as you spoke about, and just went by, still close by. Lawson now, he'll be trying to, perhaps the trail for Lawson may be the better option to move away from the shot, because the danger is, of course, Wilson will keep attacking down that side to try and trail the jack to where those Australian bowls are. Gary Lawson can take the gamble and try and move the jack back to where the Shannon McElroy bowl is, and that negates that trail shot for Aaron Wilson. We'll see. Here's Lawson. He's playing down on his backhand, trying to reach that shot bowl. And in fact, he's going to run into the Shannon McElroy bowl, and that's okay, actually, because it pushes it in behind the head. But here's the danger here now, and it's just what we see with Wedlock. 2 rolls out of that Gary Lawson bowl, and Australia can hold 4.
Yeah, if he's able to sit on that Lawson bowl, it's not going to be the angle for it as he comes out wide, but probably not the worst place to be if Lawson's able to move the jack. Now they have the back bowl, Australia.
So Shannon McElroy just saying to Gary Lawson, make that middle bowl of the Australian group in your jack that you're aiming for, and that's what he's doing, trying to get down to that shot bowl of Australia, going to be under the head. And I'm sure this could be a big turning point in the match here. 13-12 Australia lead, and there's the call from Corey Wedlock. Virtually just needs to face that bowl out of the head, that New Zealand bowl, and could make 4 shots of it.
Yeah, Lawson will have the last say, though.
He will.
Yes, can certainly put a lot of pressure on the New Zealand skip. If he's able to do exactly what Wedlock was saying, well, he's certainly tighter, but is he tight enough? Yes, I think he is. Well, he might be getting the jack
Get the back
instead.
of the jack. That'll suit New Zealand, and it will.
Yeah, so it's backfired.
That was the danger. The back of the jack moves back to there.
So from holding 1 and trying to make it 4, you've actually given it up, and now New Zealand holding shot, and you'd say probably 2, in fact, actually, wouldn't you, with that McElroy bowl obviously right on it, and that one out to the right-hand side would be closer than this back bowl here, the previous bowl from Aaron Wilson.
There's a big bowl, big result for New Zealand, really, and you certainly take those when they come along, and Gary Lawson will be really determined to make 3 of this to make Australia pay for that error.
Has he got the line right? I don't think he has.
Well, if he can get onto his own, looks to be on the narrow side, needs to get past with that bowl.
Might have helped. I don't know if it's enough.
2 was the call, I think, from McElroy. Well, it still might be 3.
No, I think they were just looking at what was happening over in the triples alongside. Oh, yeah, Australia, I think by the sounds of things, played a pretty good shot, but I believe that was a couple for New Zealand. That should make it 14-13. We'll wait for the scoreboard to be updated. Also, shortly have the completion of the 14th end in the match in the triples alongside this one. I'll bring you up to date with that shortly. As New Zealand back in control of the mat and the jack. So shorter length end they opt to play. It's been really mixed up by both nations, but yet confirmation of 2 on that last end. So 14-13 13 now after 14 of the 18 ends.
So, Brendan, will the 14th end be possibly the telling end? Because that was a big turning point in the game then, because there was a really good chance of Wilson turning that into 4. Certainly Gary Lawson still had a bowl left, but going from 1 up, 2 down, could have been 3 down. Great result for New Zealand, and I've marked it down here. Let's see what happens, but that certainly was a element of luck, you could say, for New Zealand. But when you play the game how Wilson and co play it, these things can happen. Just got the wrong side of the jack, and there's a result. But that's not going to stop Aaron Wilson from playing those shots, because that's the way he plays the game.
Yeah, I think, if it could have been a 3 or a 4, it might have been more impactful. I think if New Zealand managed to pick that, they only got a 2, which they could have really hurt Australia there. So I don't think Aaron Wilson will be too disappointed. Like you say, it is the way you play. It's not going to work every single time. There is a bit of risk involved.
Well, there we just saw there again another touch on the jack from Corey Wedlock. Got the back of the jack again and just moved it ever so much closer to those 2 Shannon McElroy bowls sitting just off the centre line. Watch this third bowl of McElroy's now break towards the head. How's the weight as it comes down? Is it going to get all the way? No, it's not. We'll now see Corey Wedlock. No doubt he'll want to reach the head, and and he's saying, just play with that weight drawing underneath that. It looks to me it's going to hang out on the wide side with that weight, and it will, and go by. New Zealand holding, but as Brenton and I have said, end after end, it'll certainly change around, that's for sure. Playing the end 15, so they get through the ends pretty quickly.
Yeah, they surely do. What's, I suppose, surprising is that the triples is ahead of this pairs match. They've been playing at a faster pace. Currently, one of the players obstructing the men's triple scoreboard, but we'll give that to you shortly. And the women's pairs, it's New Zealand 13-8 up after 13 of the 18 ends there. And the women's triples, it's Australia leading 13-4 now after 12 of the 18 ends. And we're currently playing the 15th end now in the men's triples, and it's all tied up. So Australia, I think, picked up a 5 on the previous end. I think they were, from memory, they were leading 13-8. Now it's 13 all in the men's triples contest. So you heard a few roars and claps from the Australians, and you saw Corey Wedlock looking over at the other rink, and that was why.
Yeah, well, no doubt. I'd say Aaron Sheriff played a big bowl. New Zealand holding the shot here on the 15th end. Gary Lawson with his first bowl deliberately came right back towards the 2 metre mark, because we'll see Aaron Wilson will certainly be attacking with some sort of weight to get down, and he's going to play with more weight, I think, than he did with his first, to try and hold up to get the Gary Lawson bowl and get down towards the jack. We'll see in but a moment as the Wilson bowl. You can see there Corey Wedlock giving those indications. Aaron Wilson up. Now that's unusual, because Aaron Wilson walked up, have a look at the head to see exactly what shot he's going to play.
Yeah, it's happened. It has happened a few times. That's what I say. After the frantic start, it's calmed down into a bit more normalcy, isn't it? As far as they have slowed it down. They have had a few deliberations as the drive comes in from Aaron Wilson, as he knocks away one, but somehow it's made its way through in between the 2 McElroy bowls and not taking the jack, and Corey Wedlock can't believe it. And
well, I
Aaron
can't
Wilson
either, because
or Kevin Hickman.
No, I certainly can't, because they'd come and looked at that shot, and he'd pointed to that shot, and somehow that bowl went in between the jack and the bowl and didn't touch anything. So, chance here. New Zealand, of course, they can get one roll off that green bowl to the side, that Australian bowl, and make 3 of it with Aaron Wilson with a bowl to play yet, of course. So here is Lawson, Gary Lawson, New Zealand skip, looked to be on the wider side out of the hand, and it's just going to go past. And it's fine. It's behind the back of the head as we come to the end of 15 of 18. And Aaron Wilson having another look to see what he'll play. He'll definitely be playing with weight, that's for sure. So you can hear both players conferring about what shot to play. It's very nonchalant about things, just, oh, if you get this or you get that, but I'm sure Aaron Wilson, he knows what he'd be aiming for. I'm picking he's trying to get that port through. That's the port he's playing for, it certainly is. Down between the Shannon McElroy bowl, on the line to the jack, and gets the jack clean.
Fires out the side.
That went over square leg, actually.
I assume it will be respotted. And New Zealand have, of course, had that back bowl there from Gary Lawson. Look at, I'll catch a replay of this one, because look at the jack absolutely explode out. Look at that fly out to the right of the screen there. Apparently it was caught as well by someone who was being very nice and vigilant. You don't expect a jack to end up on your lap.
That was caught very, very deep.
But what it means is another one to New Zealand, so it should be 15-13 now.
It was caught out on the square leg boundary. Certainly flew over the top, that jack.
I thought it was more over third man boundary, or if you're maybe the left-hander, more fine leg.
well, I'm sure the Black Caps
it was a 2, in fact. It was a 2, so it wasn't just that back bowl, but it was another bowl closer to the 2-metre mark for New Zealand too. So it's 16-13 as the board's flicked over after 15 of the 18 ends.
I'm sure the Black Caps, Brendan, right now, they wouldn't mind playing against India. They wouldn't mind which boundary it went to, actually. They'd like to get a few winning boundaries. As we see Corey Wedlock draw jack level. Shannon McElroy just slightly short with his first bowl on this, the 16th end, with New Zealand now leading by 16-13. 16-13 as we play in 16 of these 18 ends, as we watch this bowl of Shannon McElroy's now break down towards the jack. This looks a pretty good bowl from the world champion, and it is. Sits right alongside the jack.
These last few ends, these two men's matches, both this men's pairs match we're bringing to you, and the triples alongside, absolutely crucial, you think, in the outcome of this Trans-Tasman Test Series after New Zealand won the first at Club Helensvale yesterday. If they can somehow hold on here and prevail in the triples, they take a massive step to winning the Trans-Tasman back for the men for the first time since 2009. Otherwise, it can go very much the other way. And Australia, if they come back here, prevail in the triples, then all of a sudden that 3-1 up for the day and in pole position to level this Test Series.
So we saw Corey Wedlock with his second bowl get a touch on the McElroy bowl, move the jack out to the side, and thus then with his third bowl, we've seen Corey Wedlock now draw the shot slightly jack high, holding one as he skips change over, with New Zealand leading 16-13. And as Brendan just said but a few moments ago, if New Zealand can win these two matches, it means New Zealand only have to win one in this third session this afternoon, and that would give them not only the second test, but it would give them the overall men's Trans-Tasman for the first time since 2009. But a lot of bowls to be played before we get to that. There's Lawson now on the backhand. No longer the pink bowls from Lawson. We've now got the red bowls. Gary Lawson's now breaking down towards the head to the Corey Wedlock bowl, which is shot as it got the weight to come all the way back. This is a wonderful effort by Lawson, just going to finish slightly lower the jack.
For me, it's a bit of a toss-up between those two. Who's got shot now? This may all change though after this bowl from Aaron Wilson.
Well, that certainly
might have even made it tougher. I don't know still don't know who's got shot.
Well, I would favour the back bowl.
Yeah, the bowl on the left of the three.
It's Gary Lawson just got to try and draw in between those three bowls, but he's on the narrow side. You can see that. As soon as it left his hand, going to run into the Shannon McElroy bowl. How generous is this going to be? That's the shot. Just saw Corey Wedlock put the hand down. Front bowler Gary Lawson's shot.
Wow. It's another dose of luck. That's not the first time that New Zealand's done that. Managed to get a slide off a front bowl with a slightly wayward effort.
There's Wilson going for the jack and just slides by. It's a good thing for New Zealand with that jack trail. There is a Shannon McElroy bowl that sits just in behind the jack there. Jack high by about half a metre. And that jack trail is safe to there. Gives New Zealand some cover. With New Zealand holding shot, leading 16-13. As we come to the back end of end 16, Gary Lawson will try and get to where those three Australian bowls are. You can see, get some cover in there and possibly draw a counter. Just put a bit more pressure on that last bolt of Aaron Wilson's. On its way is the Lawson bowl. It's on a better width, this bowl of Gary Lawson's. As it breaks down towards the head, how does this bowl look? It's the shot itself sitting.
Yeah, two now they're holding. So the low five from McElroy to Lawson. You could tell the way Lawson was walking after that one.
The stalk.
Yeah, he knew that it was in the area. And now all on this last bowl from Aaron Wilson. Otherwise, New Zealand will take a 5-shot lead with just 2 ends to play.
And Wilson will certainly be trying to reach to that bowl because it does give him a chance to get off the back of that bowl to get shot. And it's gone right under the head. He'll be disappointed with that, with Aaron Wilson.
So we might have a measure by the sounds of things that we, for the first time in this match, it seems like there is some dispute over maybe the third. We can only assume that New Zealand have certainly 2. Well,
that's one out.
One.
2 are out.
2 are out. So there we go. So
there's a big end.
At least take a 5-shot advantage, but are they potentially taking a third? Going to that orange bowl there.
It's close.
It is very close. That's what this is what we're talking about, wasn't it? With these 3 bowls, we didn't know who was closest at the time, and it wasn't just that the camera angles. It actually is incredibly close between the 3 of them. Oh, McElroy is hardly able to tell the difference, I think, between
Mr.
these
Umpire.
2.
Umpire.
So, the first measure is going to be decided by the umpire as they clear everything else out. So, it'll be at least 2 for New Zealand. Another end is nearing completion. And the men's triples as well. It's all going well in the women's pairs. 17-8 New Zealand up after 14 of the 18 ends. So, after 2 losses yesterday, Selena Smith and Joe Edwards on course to record their first win of this Trans-Tasman. First win as a combination against a new Australian pair, Lindsay Clark and Kelsey Cottrell. Rebecca Van Ash moving into the triple, and so far doing a good job there. She's skipping Australia to a 13-8 advantage after 14 of the 18 ends. Well, it's not looking good in the triples for New Zealand now, because Australia picked up a 3 on the previous end, so they're leading 16-13 after 15 of the 18 ends there.
Look how close we are to the laser now. We're getting a real bird's eye view. Alex, where are you? Here's the laser in operation.
Well, we saw it yesterday, didn't we, at Club Helensvale? Here it is again.
Push go. There he goes, does it?
Oh, there's the push go button.
Push go button. Away he goes. Yeah.
And it is the Australian bowl, which is the third. So 2 more is the result. So New Zealand do go 5 shots to the good. 18-13 after 16 of the 18 ends. So just 2 ends remain. Lawson Surging on, McElroy, come on, we've got to finish this well.
Superb game though, Brendan, isn't it? It's really been as we predicted, and we were looking forward to covering this game because we were sure that we were going to see with these 4 players lining up, we were certainly going to see a game of the highest quality, and that certainly has been delivered by all 4 players.
Yeah, certainly. We knew within the first couple of ends that if it continued at that standard, we're in for a thriller. And it's been tight throughout. And it's New Zealand who just scored on the last couple of ends, haven't they? It was 13 apiece, wasn't it?
Well, New Zealand, Australia led 13-12 at the end of the 13th end, and then 3 consecutive twos. New Zealand on 14, 15 and 16 takes New Zealand now to that 18-13 lead. So, good score. It's very well done. Although a bit of luck in a couple of those occasions as well, where Jack sort of moved our way. But that can happen if you've got bowls around the head. That can happen. As you watch now, Corey Whitlock draw close to that centre line, definitely holding the one shot. Shannon McElroy will be determined, and obviously it's got it pretty tied up as well in that men's triples. I think that's a pretty close encounter as well. Not sure what that score is. I see another end just about to be started.
No, I think it's another 1 to Australia, so I don't think it's gone New Zealand's way. So 2 ends remaining. It's Australia 17, New Zealand 13. So New Zealand, who did lead 13-8 not long ago, now down 17-13.
So 2 good bowls from Corey Whitlock sitting alongside the Jack, and I'm sure we'll see the instruction from Gary Lawson. Just get up there, Shannon, you pick your weight, and this might, taking his time, is Shannon McElroy on his last bowl on the 17th end, and he's playing for the Jack in the ditch. That's what he's playing for, and just goes by. That was the shot that Shannon McElroy trying to bury the Jack then on the weighted shot into the ditch. So Corey Whitlock not going to the back. No fear here from these Australians. He's going to try and get a trail on the Jack, which negates that shot, and straight away he does that. That straight away takes that shot that Gary Lawson would be contemplating to get the Jack to the ditch. And the important thing here for New Zealand is to make sure that if they don't get the shot, that we have we have the seconds and thirds, so at least if we drop a shot, it's only going to be a shot. The triple's now behind, the pairs in front. This becomes very, very important now in the overall scheme of things, because we could finish up 1 apiece here, and that means this last round of the men's this afternoon is going to be a big encounter for both sides. As we watch this bowler, Gary Lawson is now break towards the head on a good line towards the counting bowler Whitlock. Shannon McElroy having a look to see what the story is, indicating I think this New Zealand's still 1 down. New Zealand leading 18-13 as we play the 17th end with Aaron Wilson, the Australian skip, about to play his first bowl now on the forehand. Quickly into his work, holding shot is the Australian side, and Corey Whitlock trying to encourage this bowl back into the head. Sits out on the wider side, so will Gary Lawson now change his hand and play to try and seat the Australian bowl, or just draw past his own? And that's the option, looks to me, that he's taking on the backhand, just trying to beat his own bowl, his first bowl, the Gary Lawson bowl, which sits dead in line in front of the Jack, on its way on the backhand, certainly on a wider line than his first. And we'll see how far this comes back on the draw. Shannon McElroy watching it closely. Is it going to come back far enough? No, it's not. So it's interesting. They still not 100% sure who's got the shot, because Corey Whitlock had a really good look at that. But again, this bowl of Aaron Wilson's, how wide is it going to be? Hangs out on that wide side, turns another Australian bowl into the head, and I wonder whether Gary Lawson may look now at that other hand to try and turn the bowl or move the Jack. That's what he's looking at. If we can get the Jack around the corner on that track as well, Brendan, just makes it a lot harder for Australia. There's no real danger for New Zealand. of dislodging their own bowls out of the head. And of course, that takes the jack away from any movement from Australia as well. 18-13, Gary Lawson's last bowl. And he is going to that forehand side to try and play that shot to either turn the Australian bowl out or get movement on the jack. It's on its way.
Looks narrow, and it is narrow, so he might only just run into his own there. It just goes wide of that wide bowl, so Aaron Wilson will now have the final say. Trying to work out how, because they don't just want one, which I think is what they're holding here, because they want to have a chance of winning the match. I want to make it 2. If I can make it 2 at least, that gives them 3 to draw on the final end, or 4 to win, which is more achievable than 4 to draw and 5 to win. Especially against the players of the calibre of McIlroy and Lawson and all their experience. Wilson, seeing if he can draw this one in here. Maybe even promote one of those bowls. Has promoted the back bowl. Has that made it 2? I think it might have. Certainly was 1. Well, we've got to wait. They don't really give much in the way of indications.
No, it's very silent in that regard.
So we'll wait to see when the scoreboard is updated. Right, Gary Lawson will do the honours. And it was just the 1, I believe. No, 2 now going over. So it was 2 to Australia. So after completion of the penultimate end, it's now New Zealand 18, Australia 15. An end has just been completed as well in the triples. And it's now Australia. I don't know if the score's been changed over there. Oh, that's because they've just changed the end. I was waiting to see what Ali Forsyth does, so just bear with me while I wait to see what he does and what happens with the scoreboard on the rink alongside this match. So we're playing the final end now of this men's pairs contest. New Zealand scoring a couple on the penultimate end of the men's triple, so that's tightened up. 17-15. They are now playing the final end in the women's pairs. It's New Zealand 19-8 up with 3 ends to play, and also 3 ends to play in the women's triples. It's Australia leading 14-8.
So Jack's been delivered, and this the final end with New Zealand leading 18-15 in this all-important pairs match. And Corey Wedlock with a very good opener sits in behind the Jack with his first bowl. Shannon McIlroy, the Nelson player, the painter from the Stoke Club in Nelson, of course the current world champion singles player who watched his first bowler. McIlroy's now breaking down, trying to get to the Wedlock bowl, sits on it clean. Superb bowl, opening bowl there by Shannon McIlroy, just sits on the Wedlock bowl. Now the really good thing about that bowl as well, although it's only the first bowl of the head, Brendan, it straight away makes it not impossible by any stretch of the imagination, but remember in Australia got to get 3 to draw, 4 to win, and that's what makes the big difference. Now we'll see McIlroy play there again, and I'm sure with his last bowl we'll see Shannon McIlroy trying to get some cover down to where those bowls are. He's going to sit on, and that's exactly where it couldn't have gone to a better position really. And that sits in amongst the Australian bowls. Well played by Shannon McIlroy. New Zealand leading 18-15. Corey Wedlock trying to get to the Jack with this his last bowl, and it's a touch on the Jack, but fortunately for New Zealand it moves the bowl. And of course, correct, so here's Shannon McIlroy saying the place now for Gary Lawson to ask McIlroy to go is to play to Gary Lawson's feet, because the shot that Australia will be trying to play is that trail through the hole to where those 2 Australian bowls are sitting. The front of the head now is fine. New Zealand have got shot. We've matched the other bowls. It's just down here in behind the head where no doubt Aaron Wilson will try and play that trail to make 2 of it or more. We've certainly seen a magnificent game of pairs in windy conditions really here. Not really too bad, but there's wind about for sure. But it hasn't worried these four players. They've been outstanding really, Brendan, haven't they? The whole four players.
Yeah, wind hasn't been as big a factor as it was yesterday as well. There is wind out there, but I think it was more of a factor at Club Helensvale, so it's certainly really been an issue for anyone out there today.
As we watch now, the Shannon McElroy third bowler, front toucher. Now, that's really superb 3 bowls there from Shannon McElroy. The 6 bowls, have a look at them. You couldn't get them much closer, really, could you? But
well, it's just an indication of this game, isn't it? It's just an example of what we've seen nearly end after end of this contest between, as we were expecting, 2 very high quality men's pairs. Kevin Hickland mentioning how he believes they're very much in the top 3 in the world, along with Scotland's Foster and Marshall.
To watch now, Aaron Wilson trying to get the jack trail, and that's the danger zone. And I can tell you that in the men's triples on the next ring, just saw a camera swip before, New Zealand are holding 2 shots on, I think that is also the last end, and New Zealand are 2 behind. And if you look at there now, you'll see it now. Brendan, as you see, Mike Kernahan and Krista Lee, both of the bowls sitting virtually very, very close to the jack, and a Krista Lee bowl in behind as well. So New Zealand holding 3 in this early stages of the final end of the men's triples.
And that other scoreboard you can see just behind Shannon McElroy is the women's pairs as well, which is going well for New Zealand, 20-8, with a couple of ends remaining in that contest.
So Lawson trying to get cover down to the back head, looking good here for New Zealand. As Aaron Wilson be trying to play that gentle trail through there for 3, and he's more than capable of playing it, but he's going to go under the head. And of course, only 1 bowl left after this has Aaron Wilson got. This is these 2 games out here right now, the men's triples, men's pairs. This is big for New Zealand, Brendan. Very big for our New Zealand chances.
Absolutely. As speaking with Mike Kernahan yesterday, want to think about the possibility of winning that Trans-Tasman. Wasn't thinking about the outcome, thinking about the process. Obviously, that is getting each win by win. We can see the Australian players and Wedlock and Wilson, they're looking at what's happening in the triples as well, and we'll keep you up to date with that one. That will finish just after this match finishes here, so we'll have no doubt the outcome of that.
And New Zealand holding 1 now in the men's triples, it would appear. I see an Australian bowl sitting close jack level over there. Aaron Wilson, he's got to trail the jack to make 3, and he's certainly capable of doing it, is the Australian skip. The good thing is there's a couple of New Zealand bowls in amongst that very tight mesh of bowls there. So here's Wilson quickly on the forehand, trying to get down towards the jack. And Corey Wedlock's looking at this. Is he going to get the jack? And that Tasman series comes really alive in this men's series, with New Zealand 2 behind in the final end of this men's triples. But although our cameras aren't on that, I can see Aaron Sheriff on the drive. You know what happened there? A great shot was the call, and now I can see Australia. Jack's been moved. Australia holding the shot over there. In fact, holding a couple, I would say. Aaron Sheriff, as we know, one of the world's best players. Ellie Forsyth down looking at the head. Not sure what's happening here in the men's. I think in this sync pairs. Of course.
Oh, they're taking their time. I think they've mostly turned spectators for a few minutes there.
I think there's a bit
to all 4 players, and they forgot, oh, we actually got a bowl to play here. We actually finished the match. So McElroy and Lawson, after being in a bit of a mid-green huddle, will now Lawson back to the mat to play the final bowl of this 18th final end men's pairs contest. New Zealand leading by 3, playing the last. And we believe they're holding shot.
So here is now Gary Lawson on the mat, and as Brenton said, I think that New Zealand are holding shot. And here's Lawson on the backhand. And Shannon McElroy looking at this bowl. Is it breaking down towards the head? Doesn't look as though it's going to do any damage. And
so New Zealand win. Oh, we don't know the margin. We'll find that out later. We'll see if the scoreboard is updated, but we'll also keep you up to date with the men's triples match alongside. So New Zealand winning this contest, the first of the completed matches in the second session. The pairs. There's Ellie Forsyth playing a drive into the ditch. A big fist pump from Mike Kernahan. It is now spotted at the 2-metre mark. Aaron Sheriff still has a bowl to play, but well executed there. And you see Ellie Forsyth get the high five from Gary Lawson.
Well, they got two lots of two teams on there now, so she's all tied up. This is enthralling stuff. Great bowl, obviously, there from Ellie Forsyth and Aaron Sheriff now. New Zealand definitely holding 3 and the match.
Win the match, yeah. 2-0 down, so they're 2 shots down. Just letting you know that the score we've got here is for the men's pairs match, but the actual score in this match, Australia leading 17-15. Oh, Aaron Sheriff's in the area here. And that's why they knew that that game wasn't over, because the great Aaron Sheriff was going to have the final say.
Great bowl there from Aaron Sheriff, and great bowl as well, obviously, by Ellie Forsyth to put New Zealand into that winning position. But we've just witnessed, of course, I think one of the great games appears. Great exhibition here from Gary Lawson and Shannon McElroy, defeating the Australian combination of Aaron Wilson and Corey Wedlock, giving New Zealand the win. So we're 2 apiece in the men's Test series.
Are indeed. Australia will have the advantage on differential. You'll have to rejoin us for the third and final session of the day of this third Trans-Tasman Test, when we will have a women's singles match for you, but we'll give you the final scores of those 2 games, as the score has just gone over on the triples. Australia 19-15, the final score in that contest to Australia. New Zealand, though, have won the pairs, the game we were bringing to you, and we'll give you the final score once that flicks over for our third and final session of the day. Just bringing you quickly up to date with the 2 women's matches in the pairs. New Zealand's leading 20-9 after 17 of the 18 ends, and in the triples, that's tightened up. 14-12, Australia leading. They are playing the final end of that match. Make sure you're back with us in around 45 minutes or so, when we will have the results from these 2 women's matches, and we'll be bringing you women's singles action. Jo Edwards in her 50th birthday, taking on Kelsey Cottrell of Australia.